My name is Donna, and I am one of the educators here at Bywater Solutions, and we are very excited to have everyone here today. I also have my colleague Andrew with me. Andrew, want to say hi?
Hi, everybody.
So we're going to be the ones that are guiding you through this today, and then Andrew is going to be doing some of the webinars later this week. So if you have a chance to attend those also, you can see right here the site that we have up, the bywatersolutions.com, has our Koha upgrade notes on them. So that's a great place to be able to go and take a look and see what's happening with all of everything that's happening. So we do have the complete 1711 upgrade notes. What we're covering today is by no means everything that's happening in the upgrade, but it is the bulk of the things that are happening and the ones that we think that you all are going to be most interested in. But if you really are interested in the minutia, you're welcome to take a look at those and see what's happening. So we have our schedule posted up here. We had our first webinar on what's new that was recorded and posted up here, and that's a little over an hour, and it's just everything, the big things that we went over. So feel free to take a look at that. You can see that we also have links to the OPAC user public services, the Circ and Patrons. This recording will be up there today, or will be up there later. We have the technical services upgrade webinar, which is tomorrow at 1 o'clock. And again, that's one that Andrew is going to be leading. And then we also have the administration reports upgrade webinar on Friday. Again, for both of those, we've already had one, so that is there, but make sure you come in and take a look if you haven't seen that yet. Then we've also posted any of the questions and the answers that we get from these webinars. So y'all have been asking a lot of really terrific questions. And so we've been posting them up here so that everyone can take a look and see what the answers are. And if there's any bugs related to them, it gives you the history of that sort of thing. So a lot of great information in here for you. And what I'll do is I'm going to go ahead and post this in the chat just so that you have it available. It's an easier place to grab it from than trying to grab it from my screen. So there we go. So great resources there. Go ahead and take a look at those. So one of the biggest questions that we have is when exactly is the upgrade going to happen? Everyone's ready for the 1711, and that is going to begin in early June and will continue throughout the month. We will start all of the upgrades after 8 p.m. local time for you, and we're going to make sure that we'll push a notice to your staff client the week before so that you know when your upgrade is going to happen. We don't want to just spring it on you. If anybody has a concern about when they might be able to do the upgrade because of vacations or anything like that, just shoot us an email and we'll work with you to get that set up. But this is a minor, I don't want to say it's a minor upgrade. There's no major functionality changes as far as things that are just going to, really freak people out. So this is going to be a great upgrade for everybody. Most important thing to remember the day after the upgrade, clear your cache. So just make sure that you do that first thing, clear your cache, and you'll be all set to go. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump right in. If you have any questions during this webinar, you're welcome to either put them in the Q&A or in the chat. The Q&A, we definitely see, but not everybody sees that. And in the chat, if you're going to post them in the chat, just make sure that you send it to everybody. So make sure it's sent to all panelists and attendees, so that way everybody sees it. And actually, it looks like I did not send that to everybody, did I, that link? I did exactly what I told y'all not to do. Okay. So there we go. So I've sent that to all panelists and attendees. So you can see the issues with that if you do use the chat, make sure you send it to everybody. Otherwise, not everyone's going to see it. Unless you're having conversations with another attendee about us, and then stop doing that. Anyways. Okay, so jumping right in. One of the really neat things that is now available to us is we can see the holds history for patrons. So this is really exciting. We have so many times we have people, come into the library. I wasn't able to pick up my hold, and now I don't remember what book it was. So that's a great thing to be able to find. I'm going to pull up an account just so we can take a look at that and see. Now, this is not viewable by the patrons themselves. This is only viewable to staff. So it gives you all the history of all the holds and the actual status of them. And then you can just see all of that information, and that it does depend on your privacy settings also. So if you're not keeping any of the patron reading history, then you're not going to have access to this. So there we go. So here it is. So it's just the tab on the left-hand side when you are in the patron account. It's a new little tab called Holds History. And then you can see right here that I had one hold that is actually pending right now, and I have another hold that has been canceled. So you would also be able to see if they were fulfilled, you know, and if it's, you know, the different status of the hold. So this is a neat little feature for, especially for those avid readers that often have a lot of holds and they may miss one and can't remember what it was. You can go in there and see what's happening with it, and it will give you dates and all of that sort of information also. So it's a neat feature to be able to, yes, exactly, Cambria. It's a neat feature for our patrons so that they can see what's going on with that. Okay. This is one that we've talked about in a couple of other webinars, but we want to make sure that everyone's aware of this one, is that you now have the functionality to enforce a strong password. This is done through a system preference, and we'll jump into there and I'll show you what that system preference is. But really what it does is it requires a very strong password. So the option is require strong password, and you can either require or don't require. The default will be don't require, so don't worry about having to go through and change everything automatically. But what it does is it says that every password must contain at least one digit, one lowercase, and one uppercase. And so that's going to be looked at in conjunction with your rules on what your minimum password length is. So for instance, if you have your minimum password length set to 3, which is the absolute smallest you can get, then that means those 3 characters, one has to be an uppercase letter, one has to be a lowercase letter, and one has to be a digit. So just be aware of that. It's not going to force people that already have passwords to change them to a strong one. But if any staff member or any patron needs to change their password for any reason, or you register a new patron, you're going to have to use this strong password. So just kind of be aware of that. It really depends on your library's preferences if you want to set that or not. So we're going to go into patrons, and I'm just going to, well, I'll pull up my test account again and show you. So patron comes in, says, I can't remember my password. Can you reset it for me? We're going to come into edit. And then when we come down to password, you'll see it doesn't indicate that strong password is turned on. It just says that there has to be a minimum length of 3. So what I'm going to do is I will delete this password and start typing a new one. And as soon as I type one keystroke, it's going to show me what I have to have in that minimum password. So patrons will see the same sort of thing from their side when they try to change their password. If you've enabled that through the OPAC, they'll get that same message, but it doesn't show until you actually start typing in that password field. So just be aware of that. I'll show you, for instance, if you're registering a new patron, the same sort of situation happens, that you add a new patron, and then once you come down to password, again, all it says is 3. As soon as I type any keystroke in there, it's going to give me that pop-up message saying, oh, yep, okay, you do have to have that strong password in there. So just something to be aware of as we're moving forward. Now, if any of y'all have used the randomly assigned password, Koha will still follow those rules and add the strong passwords if needed. So again, if you already have passwords in there, you don't have to change anything. It's just moving forward, you will have to make sure that that is a strong password if you decide to turn that on. Okay. All right, so back to circulation. So this is one that I think is a neat option, and it allows you to block the return of lost items. There is a minor bug with it right now in that it doesn't completely work 100%, but it's really, really close, and so it's going to be fixed very soon. But what you're going to do, so is if you have an item that you check in right now that you don't know that that item has been marked as lost, you have no indication that that's happening. What's going to happen now Okay, so lots of attention getting at this point. So first of all, it needs to be returned to a different branch, but it's also going to tell me that that item was lost and has now been found. The lost fees will remain on the patron's account, and again, that's the system setting, and that it's not checked out at this point. So you do get an error message or a notification saying that that has been returned, but it actually does still return the item. So that is something that we do have a bug in there already, asking that to be fixed, because we don't really want to return this lost item. We want to make sure that we stop it before it is returned. So that'll be coming soon, but right now it's still, step in the right direction that we get this really big message saying, hey, you know what, this was a lost item and we need to make sure that we are aware of this one. So if I click on this item right now, we can see that it's not in lost status anymore, and it is now in transit to where it needs to go. So that lost one is going to be a neat feature too. It's going to make sure that we are kept on our toes if we happen to check in a lost item. So another neat little feature that has been added is on the checkout screen. When you bring up a patron, their title now displays on that screen. So you can see right here, it is checking out to Mrs. Donna B. So that's a really neat feature that if you have someone that you want to make sure you're addressing them properly, you do. Let's see, Cambry has a question. Right, there is something similar, but that's typically for withdrawn items, that you can't return withdrawn items. The functionality on this one is it added the yellow box because that didn't used to be there, but what it's supposed to do is block the return completely. So it's halfway there. It just needs to go ahead and actually not take that item off the patron's record. So that'll be coming soon for the rest of that part. But right now, at least we get an alert that that is a lost item, and we need to go ahead and pay attention to that one. So, okay. Excellent. So again, your titles, these are created through your authorized values. So whatever you've put into your system is what's going to be, the options when you register a patron, and that's what's going to be shown there and there. And it also does show on the OPAC also. So I think this might be particularly important in some academic settings where you need to be very precise about who you are addressing. And so we do have those options now, which is kind of a neat little addition for that one. Okay, so have you ever had a situation where you try to check out a book and you don't have a call number? Excuse me, you don't have a barcode number. It doesn't happen very often, but you also don't want to make that patron wait while you go find a barcode, add it in there, things like that. We now have an option to enable the system preference item barcode fallback search. And what that does is if I go ahead and I have this book in front of me that I perhaps don't have a barcode for, I can go ahead and type in the title of the book in that barcode. And you'll see here it also does say not just barcode, but barcode or keyword. And I'm going to go ahead and click on checkout. And it's going to give me a pop-up box. Oh, that's a really loud one. It's going to give me a pop-up box saying, here are some options that might be the right one. What do you think it is? And I can actually go ahead and click on these links and see which one is the right one that I want to check out. So Ed, for the barcode fallback search, do you mean by default? Yes, that is one that is going to be turned off by default. Yeah. So that is an option too that you can go ahead and still check that item out to that patron if you don't happen to have a barcode on that. So, okay. Let's see. We're going to go back into searching the catalog again. So another neat little feature, sometimes we'll have items in the collection that might be damaged, but we're still circulating them. Perhaps they're not completely damaged, but there are times when you're not going to want to place a hold on one of those. So now you're going to have the option of when you're placing a hold from the staff client, it will show up as damaged if it has been marked damaged. So that's a neat feature also. So I'm going to go ahead and search the catalog for an item. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and pull this one. Okay, and so you can see right here that that one is damaged. Okay, so I could always do the place the hold. Yeah, okay. I think I've locked my count up. But anyways, you can see right here that that item is damaged. So it's an easy way to see available if that item has been marked as damaged. So that way you're not necessarily pulling a damaged item for someone. Okay, so another feature that we have, kind of a neat little addition, is showing location code in stats. So let me get to this one. So we're going to go back into, or we're going to go into reports. So now you can see when a book is checked out per location. So what we're going to do is we're going to use a saved report that our very brilliant report writer Andrew did for us. And it is report 35. Okay, so it's going to be statistics showing shelving location. So this could be helpful when you're doing things like if I have created a display, are people going to be able to, are people using this sort of thing? So I'm going to go ahead and pull display as my shelving location and run the report. And say, okay, so, I can see that in the last, 3 weeks that we've had a few things that have been checked out by, from the display. So we always wonder whether or not our displays are used. And so this, again, is a very good way to be able to see what's being used with that. We could go ahead and again, just run it off of any of the categories that we have here. So perhaps I want to see if my new books are circulating also. And apparently my new books are not circulating at all. So need to do something about promoting those. So it's just a neat way to be able to see what's being checked out. If we're doing special displays, are they being used? So again, those of us that love numbers and want to know that our work is being used or appreciated, we can do that. Okay, so there's another report in this area that I want to show you. And this is a neat one where we can capture the membership renewal date. So when we go to report number 25, patrons with date renewed, what we're going to do is we enter a range of dates in this. So I'm going to go ahead and run this one. So for instance, I want to see any of our patrons that have been renewed since this time last year to yesterday and see how many of our patrons have been renewed. So we're going to go ahead and run that. Okay, and so we can see that Kelly Kapowski was first registered with a library card on December 15th, 2010, and she did renew that on March 27th, and this is her card number. And Barbara Jo Smith first got her library card on December 12th, in January 2012, and has renewed hers in just a couple of weeks ago. So again, a neat little way to see what's happening with that. Will these reports be available? These are ones that we have just created, but yes, we will be getting those up onto the wiki if they're not up there already. I think some of them are, but we'll double check and make sure that those are up there. Okay. So reports are always, I love reports because it's just, you can find so much great information with them. And kind of one of the things that I absolutely love about reports is you really can't damage any of the data. I know we're all concerned that we're going to wipe out our Circ stats or anything like that, but you really can't do that with reports. You're pulling from basically sealed information, so you're not going to be able to, delete anything just from the reports. The worst thing that you can do, which I tell people, is you're going to run a report and it's going to tie up your system. We'll know that that's happening. We'll kill the report and you'll be back to normal. So don't worry about trying to pull data out from reports. You can always do that and you're not going to do any damage to it. So one of the other additions that has been made is card number length. So again, might be a little thing, but there's, libraries out there that this is really important to them too. And it may come in handy if you get creative with how you're going to do your card numbers. There was a maximum limit that you could only have your card number be 16 characters. So now you can have up to 32 characters in length. So this is going to be really helpful for some of the specialized libraries that are perhaps using names as card numbers. So you can go ahead and have that entire name on there, or name and number, whatever you want to do. But so now you can go up to 32 characters. Okay. Okay. Another new addition that we have for this is that when you import patrons, you actually will go ahead and create, those will be turned into a list. So for instance, so you have your patron import file, you've gone ahead and run it, and let's see, nope. We didn't leave the files in here. Okay, but what it's going to do is it's going to go ahead and create a list there. Let me see if I can go ahead and pull this from somewhere. Okay, when you come into import patrons, okay, you would choose the file. Let's see what happens when I just pull a barcode file in there. I might completely crash the system, so hold on, let's see what happens. So we're going to look for card number as matching. We're going to ignore. Probably going to throw an error message. Yeah, so we didn't report it. There was nothing in there that was going to match the barcodes in here, but just so that when you do that, it would then create a list. There would be a default list name that you would then be able to view under your lists to see that information in there. So that is something that is a neat little feature that you can go back through and change those things. If you've imported a patron file and realized that you put the wrong location for all 77 of those patrons that you've imported, you can pull that list back out and make those modifications. So it's a nice way to be able to keep track if you are importing lists of patrons. Okay. So searching in the staff client, one of the things that always drove me nuts is that when I was searching in the staff client and I have a lot of results, you would always have to scroll down to the bottom to go to the next page. So now we have our pagination at the top too. So again, these little things, but it's going to make it a little bit easier as we're moving through, that we can go ahead and have all of those items right at the very top, that we can go ahead and jump through those lists, go to the last page in the list, whatever we want to do. So that pagination is now at the top and will stay at the top as you go through the different pages. Okay, and so then we also have the option to jump all the way back to the previous page, those sorts of things. So again, a neat little efficiency for us as we're going through and doing our searches. Okay. So let's go back to administration. This is something that some of y'all may have already seen. We did a blog post on this a few months ago, where we now have the option to set replacement costs and processing fees by item type. So what we're going to do is you're going to come into your item types, and you can see that we have the chart, we have the columns for default replacement cost and processing fee when lost. So for instance, with games, I'm going to go ahead and edit this one. So for all of our games from now on, I'm going to say that there is a replacement cost of $30. And then the processing fee is going to be $12, because have you ever had to go through and bag up all of those little pieces that come in those and things like that? So we're going to go ahead and set that it's a default replacement of $30 and a processing fee for $12 for all of those item types. Now, again, with Koha, if you have something in that replacement cost in the item itself, that's going to be what is charged. But if that field is blank, it will default to this $30 and the $12. And so you can go in there and change those as you need to. A great example is with the audio materials, so books on tape sort of thing, that you have to have the binder and the envelopes and all of those sorts of things. So there's definitely processing fees with those. You don't have to have both. You could have a default replacement cost and no processing fee, or you could just charge a processing fee and the default replacement cost, perhaps you're going to deal with a separate way. So a nice addition, that instead of making sure every single item in your collection has a replacement cost in that field, you can go ahead and just have these set as defaults. Excuse me. Now, of course, there's going to be system preferences that go along with those. And so we are going to go ahead and take a look at the processing fee one. So the processing fee, you have the option to set a note that would appear when that goes on a patron's record, when they are charged that processing fee. Now, since this is system-wide, whatever you put in here is going to be applied to every item type, to every patron, to every location. So you can go ahead and say, like we have here, processing the item so that they know what it is, or you could put something else in there, but that is a neat option to be able to do that. And then there is also the use the default replacement cost, which is actually what's going to turn that on once you have set those up in your item types. So your options are don't use or use. So if once you've set those up in your item types, you want to make sure that you come in here and change it to use so that you can have those applied uniformly. Okay, there's two ways that these fees and costs will be charged to the patron's account. If you have the long overdue cron job running, then that's going to go ahead and use those numbers also. Or when you set the item status to lost through the item tab, that's when it's going to go ahead and process that replacement cost and the processing fee. Okay. This one's good. Oh, I beg your pardon. I'm fighting with allergies today. Do forgive me. So this next feature is going to be really helpful when you're trying to figure out fine histories and things like that. We have something called an account offsets table. So what you can do is when you're looking at a patron, you can see what their things that they've paid for, what the funds that they've paid for are applying to. So let's go ahead and we'll bring up another customer. Okay, so for instance, I owe $4.95. So I come in as a patron and I'm going to go ahead and just pay everything that's there. Actually, you know what? I don't have the $5. I only have $4. So I'm going to go ahead and pay that amount. And then you can see here, so we've had the payment, and you can see where the funds have gone towards paying each of those. Okay. So again, you can see that I now have 25 cents outstanding on this rental fee, and then I have 70 cents outstanding on that fine. So it just makes it a little bit easier to kind of track down and see where those fees are. There's a huge amount of information that is available through the Yes, Ed, that's exactly what I was going to say. There's a huge amount of information available through the offset tables that you can go ahead and run reports against and really connect the fees and the payments for the different things. So there actually is a bug that is going to be run, excuse me, it's bug 2696, that these reports are going to be much easier to have available to staff via the intranet. So right now, if you're a reports guru, you can go in there and grab this sort of information. But for now, you can always ask for our help, and we'll help pull those reports and see exactly what's happening with a lot of those. Okay, so I love lists. I think that they're a great resource for our patrons, and you can do so many things with them. You know, if you aren't aware, you can also use them to run your cover flows. So it doesn't have to be just the most recent books that are in your cover flows. It can be themed items, and those are done through your lists. But in the past, you've always had to have a barcode to add something to a list. Well, now you don't have to anymore. You can go ahead and add items to lists with biblio numbers. So it's really a neat feature that we can do that. Excuse me. Okay, so for instance, we have this e-resources list here that I don't have anything on just yet. But when I pull that list up, I can either add barcodes or biblio numbers. So I'm just going to go ahead and add that biblio number that I have. And we went ahead and added that item to the list. So again, a neat way to be able to include a lot of your e-resources, you know, or anything else that perhaps you don't have a barcode for. So an additional, just a great feature with that. And as y'all may be aware, lists now, you can actually have images on them too. It will pull the cover images. So if we go back to my lists, and look at some of my public lists. There we go. Need to be in the public side to see those, and that enhancement is coming soon too. But here we go. So now with our lists, we can see that we have the cover images attached. So it's just a much nicer appearance for those lists. There's also been some wording added to the lists when you've created them. So you know, you have the option of private and public. And so we're going to set this one to private. And then you have the options to allow changes from either nobody, the owner only, or anyone seeing this list. So if I say, well, anyone seeing this list, I get a little pop-up that says, you do realize that this is a private list and no one else can see this, right? So it just kind of clarifies that no one else is going to be able to see this information. And it does show up both in the OPAC and in the staff client when you're making the lists. Okay, so this is a fun one. Well, for most of us. It's something that is just solving one of those little issues. So again, when I create a patron and I require the birth date, we could only do a 10-year cycle on those when we did our picker. Now we can go way back. It's actually 100 years. So it's really kind of neat that you can go ahead and just scroll back as far as you need to, back 100 years. So hopefully that's going to cover most of your patrons. So that's a neat feature. Instead of having to do 10 at a time, you can go ahead and just do, again, that last 100 years. Oh, and actually, you know what? Apparently it goes back 100 each time. I did not realize that. So I don't think many of us are going to be using 200-year-old dates, but kind of a fun one that you can go ahead, and it's much easier to go ahead and add that information. Okay. Okay. Let's see. Something else, again, this is a minor fix, and this is more on the customer side than anything else. But when I had holds on my account and I wanted to suspend those holds, there was an error message there was an error situation if you had more than one hold, that it would not suspend the holds with a date. So now that has been corrected, so I can go ahead and pick a date if I have multiple holds, and it's going to go ahead and suspend my holds until that date with multiple ones. So again, this is going to be really helpful for a lot of those folks that are doing, that are heavy users, that have a lot of holds and are maybe traveling and things like that. So that's just a nice little feature fix that is actually working the way that it is supposed to do. Okay. If any of y'all use clubs, that has had some fixes in there also. So oh, that's not where I wanted to go. Excuse me. Okay, so with the patron clubs, that you can manage the clubs now, it was kind of weird that you didn't get these messages showing that there wasn't anything there. So now you can see that there is the new club templates. It's easy to add that you need to add one, things like that. Another little one on patron lists, it's much easier to see how to access. Oh, and here's some of the examples of what it's going to look like when you're uploading patron files. It's going to show as a default name that you can change. But before, you would have to go into actions to actually view the lists of the patrons. Now you can just go ahead and click right on the name of the list, and it'll pull all of that information up right there. So a little bit easier way to go ahead and access the patron lists. Okay, so those are kind of the big things that are happening with the patrons and circulation in the 1711 upgrade. So what questions y'all have? What should we go over again? Any other questions about what we've got going on?
Donna, there is a report in there for that account's offset data if you want to run that.
Oh, absolutely. Let's go ahead and pull that one.
It's going to ask for a borrower number. I believe
okay.
I'm 47.
Sorry, what was it?
I believe I'm 47.
47? Okay. Let's go ahead and go back into our reports. Oh, there we go. Okay, so we're going to see how bad Andrew's account has been. Oh. You haven't been very...
I might be wrong about my borrower number. I think you were 72.
Was I 72? Okay, yeah, we know that I have stuff in there. So let me go back, and we're going to go ahead and rerun that one. There we go. Okay, so you can see exactly what happened when we were in there. So payment types, when it was created, my borrower number, and what the description of the fee is. And so you can kind of see where they're balancing back and forth to have that information there. So it's a neat feature. Like Ed said, it's going to be a great functionality for setting up or for verifying what's going on with fines and things like that. Okay, show the SQL, sure. So I don't think you're going to see all on that one. Let me go back and pull it. Okay. So there you go. Oh, okay.
And then Cambria had a question about clubs that got pushed off the chat panel.
Clubs. So I'll be honest, I haven't run into a lot of libraries that use clubs, but I'd love to see folks using it a little bit more. And really what this is it's going to come in handy when you've got book groups and things like that happening. So basically what you're going to do is you can go ahead and create a club template. And we're going to call this one Read It. And this is going to be a chick-lit reading group. Okay. This would permit people to enroll in this through the catalog if they wanted to, and this would require people to set a valid email address, and then I can go ahead and decide which branch I want this to show at, and only librarians logged in at that branch would be able to modify it, so make sure that you choose that one carefully. As far as the club fields, you would need to set up some authorized values and things like that. I haven't really worked with this too much. And then the enrollment fields of what do you want in those enrollment fields as far as people putting that information in there. So the way I understand it, again, I haven't really played with this a whole lot, but the way I understand it is that's going to be a way that you can keep everyone in a group connected with information, updating it, letting them know things are happening, stuff like that. So Cambria, I'm going to get you more information and share it on our questions page to make sure that everyone is aware of what you can do with the clubs and how those function. Okay. Other questions? Okay, well, while you're typing in your questions, I just want to remind everyone that we do have the additional trainings coming up, but then there is also a really exciting opportunity in September called KohaCon. And the website is kohacon2018.bywatersolutions.com. So this is a great opportunity to get together with other folks who use Koha, not just in the US, but actually around the world. We do have a lot of international users that'll be coming to visit. This is going to be in Portland, September 10th through the 12th. And then if you happen to be a hacker, we invite you to stay around for the Hack Fest, where everyone just kind of sits in a room, from what I understand, and don't talk to each other. That they just, are communicating through online, fixing all these bugs and pushing patches and things like that. And Ed's going to be there. Awesome. So it is free there's no registration fee to attend this one. It would just be housing and transportation to get there, but it is absolutely incredible. And we are also looking for people that are willing to present things. And don't think that you have to be a Koha expert to present a session. We are looking for all levels of users to present sessions at KohaCon. So if you're interested, definitely take a look and register. Portland is beautiful in September, a great place to be, and there's going to be absolutely fantastic information shared, and it is a really great place to be able to talk to other folks about what they're doing with Koha, learn some different tips and tricks. And then again, if you are a hacker or want to be hacker and want to learn how to do some more, get involved with more of the coding, since this is a community-based product, then definitely stick around and work with the folks that are using this. And again, one of the requests that we also always see is that the developers would like to be talking to some of the librarians that are actually using this. So again, if you're someone that really likes Koha and knows how to use it, and have always said, well, geez, it would be really nice if we could, this would be a great opportunity to actually talk to some of the developers and say, this is what we're looking to do. And it's absolutely amazing when you do this, because you talk to the developers and their eyes just light up. Like, ooh, I think I can figure out a way to do this. So it's a lot of fun. Definitely consider coming. We'd love to have everybody there, and it actually is going to be at the University Palace Hotel in the grounds of Portland State. So it's going to be a great time. We hope to see everybody there. Yes, and like Ed says, the coders always need input from the users. Even if you can't code a bit, they are going to love having you there. You're going to be incredibly popular. And the way we always explain this to folks is that, well, pretty much like we do with anything else, is that if you're an end user, your perspective of how you deal with Koha and your patrons and how that interacts is going to be completely different from folks that are behind the scenes writing the code. And so we do have some really interesting conversations even now within Bywater when we're talking to the developers. And so they really do need to have that feedback from, quote, the real world and how it works. So definitely consider staying. It's an awesome opportunity to get together with other Koha folks. So, okay, well, I don't see any other questions coming in. I would like to say thank you all for attending today. We know your time is incredibly valuable. This will be posted along with all of our other webinars, and hopefully you're looking forward to 1711 upgrade. I know we are. And then hopefully we're going to see you all in September at KohaCon. All of Bywater is going to be there, so you can actually talk to all of us face to face. So we look forward to seeing y'all, and thanks so much.